amateur of some trades, but a master of none. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to have a pretty awesome project that we're going to take care of here. It's the water pump replacement on the 2006 Town and Country. I noticed when I replaced the alternator and the drive belt that there was some water, a little bit of moisturage. Is moisturage a word? Moisturage, I'm going to go with it, around the water pump, what I assumed was the water pump. So now we're going to go back and replace that, and so an adventure. As always, this is not a how-to video. This is just me coping with the reality of do-it-yourself. And believe me, if I had the money, I'd have somebody else do it. But we're all ready to go here, starting with jacking up the car. Alright, so the rear wheels of the van are chocked, and I loosened up the lug nuts on the tire, or the wheel that we're going to have to take off. We're going to jack up the car. So our situation here now is we got the wheel off, we're on a jack stand, and we're going to take off the screws and then the trim fasteners that hold all this stuff in, and then we should be able to see that water pump pretty easily there. Alright, I got all the screws and the body panel retention deals off, and now I am expertly finding out that I've got one more to do. You know, there's always one, and I did my best not to break off those. There's one right there in the center of the screen. I broke them off. But I've learned to try to do your best not to do that, and it's an old van, so. Alright, one more screw. I'm gonna make sure this one gets lost, so I'm always one short when we get down here. Yep. Oh. There we go. And then this guy comes off. And now we have access underneath. Alright, so this is the last piece that comes off. It's also just held on with some of those trim panel poppers, and that actually lets me access the underside of the engine, and this pulley right up here with rusty plier pointer. That guy right there is the water pump. So it's pretty easy to get to. That's the only reason I accepted this job. And so what we're going to do is next we're going to pop up here to the tensioner with the 1/2-inch driver and take the tension off the belt, so I can take that off. And I just replaced that when I replaced the alternator, so not going to replace that this time around. So let's get started. I'm not entirely sure I can do it on video. I'm a one-man shop, but getting that 1/2-inch breaker bar in there pulls down the tension. You can see it start to loosen up a bit, so I'm going to need 2 hands for that. I'm going to take the belt off. That'll free up the water pump pulley. It's right up there. All right, now that I got the tension off, the belt got hung up over there. But that frees up, and yeah, I shouldn't be talking like I know what I'm doing. Basically, YouTube got me into this mess, and YouTube will get me out. Hear the kids crying. That's why the minivan's important, so we can take them away to boarding school or something. All right, here's a tip. You can't take the belt completely off right away because the 3 pulley bolts, you need a little bit of help. If the belt tension is not on that pulley at all, you're not going to be able to get these bolts broken out. So you have to be able to take off tension to rotate the pulley to where you can access one of these bolts. Is that 13 millimeter? And then they're actually fairly loose, but you just keep a little bit of tension on that, or I am. You don't have to do that at all. Yeah, a little bit of. Oh, and you drop it on the ground, and then your pulley gets freed up. But the internet says it's not going to come down because there's not enough clearance. At least the way I'm doing it. So the next step is to get this rotated bit by bit so we can get the water pump itself unbolted. I almost forgot a really important step. Before I started getting those water pump bolts off, I want to make sure to drain the radiator and the cooling system. So this is the old antifreeze going out into a pan. All right, so I've taken off 4 out of the 5 water pump bolts, and the last one is right up there. Dang, there it is. All right, last of the bolts is out, so imagine the water pump should come off now. Should it? All right, I do not know how to count. I thought I'd lost one of those bolts, but the last one is up there. Still not impossible. I had to move to a smaller ratchet with a socket that was a little bit skinnier. So I'm able to get in there. Still 10 millimeter. Loosening that up, and then the water pump's gonna come off. Pretty awesome. But that ratchet and socket are attached or hanging off that bolt, and then the water pump's gonna come off. All right, everybody. Yeah, with just a little bit of wiggling and jiggling, this guy, water pump, come right out pretty much. There's the orifice where the water pump goes. Here is the water pump. All right, so here we are. Coffee. The sun is setting on this beautiful day out here in God's country, and ready to put that new water pump in. All right, so the new water pump was put in. Not the most fun, but I got all of the bolts started. Now that they're all started, all 5 of them, I'm gonna get my tiny ratchet in there and tighten them all down, and then we should be able to continue on. It took me a bit to get those bolts in, mostly that I couldn't get the tiny ratchet up there to actually ratchet, so I had to use a small wrench and fingers and a little bit of prayer and all that stuff. But I got the water pump attached with its 5 bolts as tight as I could get it with the tools I had. Now I'm putting back the pulley using the bolts that came off, getting the pulley back on, and it does spin, so you don't have any binding or scraping weirdness there. So I feel like I'm starting to kind of strip out my tensioner orifice there for the 1/2 inch drive, whatever. So what I ended up doing to tighten up these pulley bolts is going behind all this brake stuff, so you're not hitting that with a ratchet or something. I put this wrench into the hole of the pulley just to get these snug. They're just as snug, if not more snug than they would be if the belt was pulling on them, in my opinion. All right, I got the water pump pulley back in there. I've got the belt rerouted correctly per the routing sticker on the engine. I've got the radiator plugged back up. So we're gonna go ahead and put this trim back up in there, get the wheel back on, and just have it sitting ready to load up with coolant in an hour. I remember when I estimated I'd be here for an hour. It's been a few more than that, but coffee's still hot, and we'll be done shortly. Oh well, we're out here for our test drive, and got it up to temperature, the same temperature range that we operate the vehicle in. It's always just a little bit below halfway up the temperature gauge. We'll get back to the house and
turn it off and see if we can declare this thing running like a champ. I have a feeling though it's getting pretty close to champ status. Well, test drive is complete. I don't have any leakage underneath. Temperature looks good. We'll just be topping off coolant for the next little bit. Enjoying some Dunhill Royal Yacht in the Beater Briar, celebrating another successful repair by an amateur. And I officially declare that this van is now running like a champ. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. An amateur of some trades, but a master of none.